Okay, so today I'm going to teach a lesson more geared toward middle school kids, since that's where I teach. I know I said elementary book, but our kids typically read The Outsiders every single year, so I thought it would be a really good example to you. So, starting with class, everybody open up your books with chapter 3. We're going to talk about Pony Boy, describing Cherry and the social divide. So, like the Beatles, and though Elvis Presley was out, and we thought the Beatles were rank and that Elvis was tough. But that seemed the only difference to me. It's not money, it's feeling. And you don't feel anything. We feel too violently. This book is full of strong words and helps us understand identity, character, and relationships. Today we're going to learn about these 4 vocabulary words: rebellious, gallant, rivalry, and aloof. In the book and throughout the book, characters use these different words, like I said, to describe character, identity, stuff like that. So we're going to define these 4 words and then use an example from the book. So rebellious, okay? In the book, Pony Boy describes his older brother, Soda Pop, as having a reckless and rebellious streak, especially when he doesn't follow the rules and he does what he wants despite Danny's lectures. Okay, so rebellious means, this is the definition. If you have your journals, I want you to write this down. Not following the rules or resisting authority, okay? Another example would be Pony Boy says that Johnny has a rebellious look when he stands up at the socks, when he stands up to the socks. Okay, a rebellious student might refuse to follow dress code. Okay, our second word, gallant. Okay, gallant is our second word. This is our example from the book. Pony Boy calls Dally gallant after he takes the blame for the crimes he did not commit to protect his family and friends without hesitation. Okay, here's the direct line from it. Dally didn't die a hero. He died violent and young and desperate. Like we all knew he'd die someday, but he was gallant. That's in chapter 10. Okay, so gallant, the definition for it would be brave and noble. Go ahead and write brave and noble in your notebook for gallant. Another example, straight from the book, still says when he calls Dally gallant. Okay. So maybe later we'll find another example of the book where he gets to call Dally gallant again. This line says, a gallant firefighter might risk his life to save someone. There's a different example. Okay, rivalry. Rivalry is our next word. It's straight from our book. Our whole central conflict in our book is the rivalry between the 2 gangs. Okay, our main conflict, rivalry between the Greasers and the Sox. Okay. From the book, it says, we are poorer than Sox and the middle class. I reckon we're wilder too. Not like the Sox who jump Greasers and wreck houses. Our kind of rivalry could never end. And the definition, which I want you to write in your journal for rivalry, a competition or ongoing conflict between groups. So if you have your notebook, write that down along with our other 2 words. Rivalry is a competition or ongoing conflict between groups. Okay, the rivalry between the Greasers and the Sox drives the entire story of our book. In a minute, I want y'all to think, pair, share about cases where you've seen rivalries. So really quick, after you write that definition down, turn to your partner and talk about an instance where you've seen a rivalry. Okay, an instance where you've seen a rivalry. 20 seconds, starting now, talk to your group. When have you seen a rivalry? What's an instance you have seen a rivalry? Okay, can anyone give me an example of a rivalry? Okay, schools, sports teams. Okay, this week is homecoming week. We have a rivalry against the sports team that we're playing. Life School versus, can't remember the team's name. The Trojans, okay? Trojans, Life School versus Trojans. That would be like Mustang versus Trojans, our mascots. That's a rivalry. Anybody else have an example of a rivalry? Football. Football started this week. Football is a rivalry. Okay, give me an example of a team that's a rivalry. Okay, Tennessee and Alabama, absolutely. Those are 2 teams that are rivals. Perfect. Okay, seems like we're kind of understanding rivalry really well. Okay, let's move on to our last word, aloof. Okay, an example from our text for the word aloof. Okay, Cherry Valance is described as aloof because she doesn't let her feelings show. She keeps her distance even when she's friendly with Ponyboy. Okay, here's a line directly from chapter 3. She was a cheerleader, and socks were always behind a wall of aloofness, careful not to let their real selves show through. Okay, so if you have your journals, this is the definition for aloof. Write this down. Distant and not emotionally involved. Okay, aloof, distant and not emotionally involved. Okay, that is what aloof means. Another example for distant and not emotionally involved. Cherry seemed aloof at times, keeping her feelings hidden. You might act aloof if you pretend not to care about your test scores. Okay? You're trying to play it off. You're trying to be cool. Aloof. Okay? So in a minute, y'all are all in groups of 2s. I'm going to ask you to pick a word, either rebellious or gallant, aloof or rivalry. Okay, you're going to pick a word and you're going to act it out. Okay, and then your class is going to have to guess what that word is. So in this hat, I'm going to have y'all pick out a name. Okay, the words in here are going to be the ones that we just learned. Rivalry, gallant, rebellious, and aloof. So y'all are going to pick out of this bucket with your group. You're going to act it out, and one by one you're going to come out. We're going to try to guess what word you got. Okay? So walk around the classroom. I give them their words. They come up one by one, act it out. Maybe we only do a few for the sake of time. We don't do all of them. Okay. After all this is done, I'm going to put a series of questions on the board to test their knowledge. They're just going to give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. For the first sentence, it says, she smiled in a gallant way, helping her friend. Okay, was this word used correctly, incorrectly? They'll give me a thumbs up and a thumbs down. The rivalry between the teams made them best friends. Okay, thumbs up, thumbs down. Checking all their knowledge. He was aloof at the party, sitting quietly in the corner. Good or bad? Okay, now we're going to open up our journals, and I want you to choose one of the words that we used today and write a sentence using it about a character in our Outsiders book. So let's say Ponyboy. Okay, we're going to use Ponyboy as our example. Okay, which one of these words would you use to describe Ponyboy and why? Okay, in your journal, we're going to describe Ponyboy using one of these words, and you're going to tell me why you picked that word. Okay, so a sentence starter might be, I think Ponyboy is gallant because, okay? Or I think Ponyboy is aloof because, okay? I think Ponyboy is in a rivalry because, okay? These are all sentence starters. So go ahead and write your journals, okay? Using one of the words, if you had to describe Ponyboy, which word would you pick and why? Okay, this is our closing. Okay, these words help us see how characters behave and why the greasers and socks clash. There are more words, the more words that we know while reading our journals, the better understanding we get of our story. Okay, in chapter 3, we're going to read the chapter that we read at the beginning of class. Okay, they liked the Beatles and thought Elvis Presley was out. And we thought the Beatles were rank and Elvis was tough, but that seemed to be the only difference to me. It's not money. It's feeling. You don't feel anything, and we feel too violently. Okay, this book, full of all these strong words, and they describe identity, conflict, relationships, and today, these are the 4 words that we learned about. So yeah.